Welcome to Parenting Sound, where we bring you practical, evidence-based parenting strategies that work. I'm your host, Brian, and today we're breaking down one of the biggest myths in parenting. One that, if you believe it, will make your job significantly harder than it needs to be. But if you don't, it'll change the way you perceive your kid's behavior forever. Today, I want to challenge your thinking on your role as a parent. Let's go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
We hear it all the time. If you don't control them now, they'll be out of control later. It's your job to raise good citizens. The accepted myth goes a little something like this. Truly good parents take pride in deliberately shaping their kids' lives, managing every aspect of their world. Otherwise, your child's future is left purely to chance. But does controlling every action truly foster their growth, or just fuel frustration for everyone involved? What if I told you that control is not only unnecessary, it's actually making things harder for you, and especially for your child? Today, we're going to take a look at why control is an illusion, why behavior is just a symptom and not the real issue, and what real influence looks like in parenting. Let's get into it. Let's start with a simple question. What is your actual job as a parent? Most of us were raised with this idea that parenting is like an artist's workshop. We carve, shape, and mold our kids into who they should be. If we're careful and precise, we get a great final product. This is called an outcome mindset. The value judgment here being the end result is what is most important. But here's the thing. Kids aren't some project. They aren't something we build, and there's no final product that we need to strive to complete. Dr. Alison Gopnik, author of The Gardener and Carpenter, has a fantastic analogy for this. She says that instead of thinking of ourselves as carpenters, shaping wood, we should think of ourselves as gardeners, tending to the ideal conditions for growth. A carpenter controls every cut, every detail, while a gardener nurtures the environment, trusting that the plant knows how to grow. It means our job isn't about making our kids turn out a certain way. It's about helping them develop along a continuum towards the person that they already are, by learning, by experimenting, failing, and growing. When I came to this understanding, it changed everything for me with my kids. Now, this doesn't mean we don't set boundaries. It doesn't mean we don't have structure or rules. This isn't about letting kids run wild. It's about letting kids be kids. So if parenting isn't about control, then what's it about? And that's what brings us to our main discussion today. Control is an illusion. But let's be honest, control feels good. It feels safe. It feels familiar. A raised voice stops behavior now. Taking something away forces compliance immediately. Threatening a consequence makes kids listen. Each of these ideas has scientific backing. You can create a compliant kid, you can make a kid be quiet, and you can make them listen. But I think in those moments, we've provided successful answers to the wrong question. The question really shouldn't be, how do I control my kid's behavior? It should be, what is this behavior telling me about their inner world? In those difficult moments, the control you exert looks like good parenting. Heck, it feels like good parenting. But here's the hard truth. That kind of control is an illusion. It's just borrowed power. What is borrowed power, you might ask? The idea of borrowed power says that the authority a parent holds isn't an inherent, permanent trait, but rather a trust-based influence granted by the child. This power is conditional. It works only as long as the child willingly recognizes the parent's credibility, integrity, and emotional safety. Now, borrowed power can come from a positive place. If a child deeply respects their guardian, they will willingly comply based on that relationship. But more often than not, this kind of power is based in fear. A compliance built on avoidance of consequences rather than an internal understanding of why something matters. And here's the key issue with borrowed power. When kids are small, they have to listen to us. They don't have many options. In that instance, your power comes from your physical stature and your autonomy. But what happens when they get older, bigger? When they develop a sense of agency and start to question? If you've only ever relied on control, your authority doesn't last. You've bankrupted that relationship. Psychologist Dr. Edward Deci, who is best known for his research in intrinsic motivation, explains that controlling environments leads to extrinsic motivation, or avoiding punishment, rather than intrinsic motivation, or doing the right thing because it makes sense. He says, when people feel controlled, they are far more likely to react with resistance and defiance, rather than compliance and cooperation. Put another way, parental control actually fuels the exact behavior we're trying to extinguish. Take a second and consider your own parenting. Have you found this to be true? Do you notice that the more harsh you are, the more you demand a specific behavior, the more resistant your children are? For example, let's say your child refuses to put on their shoes.
No.
A control-based response to that is, put on your shoes now, or I'm going to take away your tablet.
No.
However, a relationship-based response is, I see you're really upset. What's going on? Or, my personal favorite, I see it's time to get ready for us to go to Grandma's. What are the things that we need to do before we can leave? Can you help me figure this out? The first approach might work in the moment, but over time, it erodes trust, credibility, and the integrity of that relationship. The emotional currency you have built in the form of connection, positive interactions, and mutual trust is once again bankrupt. The second approach builds communication skills because you're modeling emotional processing. It builds trust because they know you're not just there to enforce rules, but to understand. And it builds long-term influence because connection-based parenting teaches internalized discipline. Take a second. Think about your biggest parenting struggle right now. Got it in mind? How might you apply these concepts to that struggle? There's an excellent book called The Whole Brain Child, written by Dr. Daniel Siegel and Tina Payne Bryson, explaining that secure attachment and emotional intelligence, not parental control, lay the foundation for long-term success. Their research shows that children raised in fear-based control systems develop lower emotional intelligence because they haven't been taught to process emotions, less resilience to failure because they've only ever been taught how to comply and not to think, and a higher likelihood of rebellion in adolescence because eventually external control loses grip. So yes, there are moments when kids need to listen immediately. Safety is non-negotiable. But if fear and force are our everyday discipline tools, we're not raising kids who understand why they should act a certain way. We're raising kids who behave just to avoid guilt, shame, and consequences. And that's not our goal. The second important aspect of debunking the control myth lies in how we interpret our kids' behavior. Behavior is only a mere symptom of their inner world, not the focus itself. When I'm in the clinic seeing patients, I wouldn't be a very good practitioner if I only focused on a patient's cough, because I'd be overlooking the real cause. Is it a virus, pneumonia, cancer, tuberculosis, or a fungal infection? Without digging deeper, sending them off with some Robitussin and a handshake would be irresponsible. So let's dig a little deeper. At the crux of the matter, behavior is communication. When kids act out, they're not choosing to be difficult. They're not trying to push your buttons. They're showing us that they're struggling. Common unlikable behaviors might actually have some meaning. Whining may represent overwhelm, or a need to help naming feelings, craving attention or connection or structure. Ignoring instructions might represent an overloaded brain. Too much information at once. It says, I need a reset. And constant meltdowns might be the nervous system's way of saying, I'm in overdrive. Stress hormones are flooding their system and they have no ability to take instruction. Instead of asking, how do I stop this behavior? It's more beneficial to ask, what is my child trying to tell me? Neuroscientific research of child development backs this up. Dr. Bruce Perry explains that when children are dysregulated, their limbic system, which is their emotional center, hijacks their prefrontal cortex, which is the thinking center. What does this mean? When kids are overwhelmed, their brains literally cannot access logic, reasoning, or memory retrieval in that moment. If we punish them while they're dysregulated, we are punishing a brain that is in survival mode. A brain that is bathed in cortisol, or the stress hormone, and adrenaline, which is the fight or flight chemical. Instead, they need co-regulation. A calm adult helping them transition from emotional chaos to stability. The reality is, punishment will always fail in a dysregulated state. It doesn't teach emotional regulation. Instead, it teaches fear-based compliance, which disappears as soon as the external threat, or the parent, is removed. It increases stress. Studies show that harsh discipline methods increase cortisol levels in children, making future meltdowns far more likely. It can damage the parent-child bond. If a child feels consistently punished for expressing distress, they learn that emotions are unsafe to share, and they bottle them up. Dr. Becky Kennedy of Good Inside puts it simply, when kids feel safe, they learn better. When kids feel threatened, they survive. If our goal is to teach and not just control, then we have to prioritize emotional safety first, because it is impossible to learn and very difficult to process information during these heightened states of stress. So if control doesn't work long term, what does work? According to decades of research on child development and motivation, genuine influence rooted in connection, trust, and guidance outperforms top-down authority every single time. Here are some key mindset shifts to attain this. Discipline isn't about control, it's about guidance. And connection doesn't mean permissiveness, it means real influence. As Dr. Alison Gopnik's analogy points out, parents are more like gardeners than carpenters. A carpenter forces outcomes, hammering the final product into shape. A gardener creates the right conditions for healthy growth, letting nature unfold. When parents stop trying to carve behavior and focus on cultivating an environment of respect, safety, curiosity, children develop genuine self-regulation and internal motivation. But how do you build true influence? First thing you do is model what you want to see. In line with social learning theory, kids learn more by observing what adults and peers do than by hearing what they say. If you model emotional regulation empathy, and respect, your children internalize these skills and these values. Another important thing you can do is be their safe space. Influence grows out of trust. When kids believe you listen and support them, they're more likely to value your guidance. This is based on self-determination theory, which shows that children thrive when they feel secure, connected, and capable. Have you noticed kids acting crazier, weirder, and more wild than they do outside of the house? Take this as a compliment. They feel safe around you to express themselves, to explore their world, and to fail with you. A third most important thing you can do to build influence is encourage critical thinking. Rather than enforcing rules with the "because I said so" mentality, explain why. Or better yet, ask your child why they think it matters. This fosters autonomy and boosts intrinsic motivation. Here's an example. This rule keeps us safe. What do you think about that? Remember, this isn't about letting kids control everything. It's about building trust and understanding. When children respect rules because they understand and trust you, not because they're afraid, you're nurturing their resilience, confidence, and ability to navigate challenges effectively. As we wrap up our discussion today, I want to revisit the question I posed at the beginning of this session. What is your purpose as a parent? Perhaps, after our exploration today, you might find your purpose lies in guiding your child to become confident, empathetic, and resilient. Maybe it's about building a relationship rooted in mutual respect and understanding. Whatever your specific answer is, remember that effective parenting is deeply connected to your intention, being present, supportive, and purposeful in the choices you make daily. I encourage you to give your role strong thought. After all, good parents try. Great parents think. To recap today's session, here are some key takeaways. Parenting isn't about control. It's about relationships. Fear-based discipline creates short-term compliance, but undermines long-term resilience. Challenging behavior is a symptom of a deeper need, not the problem. True authority and influence comes from mutual trust and understanding, not force or intimidation. Now it's time for this week's sound steps. These clear, practical actions you can implement right away. Choose one of the following sound steps to practice each day this week. Notice any changes in your children's behavior and your household atmosphere. These steps are designed to move you from conflict to connection right now. At a glance, these sound steps are to help you shift the way you influence. Decode behavior, not just focus on it, and build influence through connection and relationship, not shouting, coercion, or threatening. And remember, human behavior takes time, so be patient with yourself and with your kids. The first sound step is to help shift influence. Pause before responding. When you feel tension rising, take a deep breath. Take a mindful moment. Ask yourself quickly, am I guiding or am I threatening? Is this to help my child learn or just to stop the moment? Replace commands with connection. Instead of, do it now because I said so, try, I see this is hard. Can you tell me what's making this so tricky for you? Phrase it how you'd like, but prioritize connection. The second sound step is to decode behavior. When you're faced with challenging behavior, shift your approach from controlling the behavior to understanding the why behind it. Pause and quietly ask yourself, why might my child be behaving this way right now? Are they overwhelmed, upset, anxious, ashamed? Say to your child directly, you seem upset. What's happening right now? I notice you're not wanting to do this. What's making it so hard? Again, phrase how you'd like, but focus on the decoding of the behavior and not shaming it. And the third sound step is to build influence through connection. The first thing you can do is model calmness. Children mirror your emotions. Practice responding calmly. When you respond with calmness, your kids learn calm. They can feel it in their bones. Review expectations together. Ask, can you remind me why we have this rule? What do you think about it? Provide simple choices to avoid power struggles. Would you like your shoes or your jacket first? Or do you want to clean up now? Or should we set a 1-minute timer before we clean up? Invite cooperation. What steps do we need to take today to get ready for bed? Can you help me with that? These sound steps help you quickly move from frustration to understanding, turning tough moments into chances for growth. Try them this week and see how quickly things can shift. Parenting isn't about being perfect, and change doesn't happen fast. But I promise, adding these applicable sound steps to your repertoire will make a huge difference. If you want to see these prompts in writing, or dive into the resources I used for this episode, you can find this information in the show notes. That's it today on Parenting Sound. If you try one of our sound steps this week, let us know how it goes. I love hearing your stories. And if this episode resonated with you, take a second, subscribe and leave a review. It helps more parents find this podcast. Share it with a friend who needs this reminder. Follow us on Instagram for more parenting insights. Next time on Parenting Sound, we're talking outbursts, from dramatic toddler tantrums to moody teenage meltdowns. We'll show you how to decode those intense feelings and respond in ways that build trust instead of tension, so your family can find calm in the chaos. And of course, if you haven't already, subscribe to Parenting Sound wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, remember, keep your wits about you, keep your kids on the ground, and keep your parenting sound. We'll see ya. Thanks for joining us at Parenting Sound. I'm Brian. Until next time, keep parenting with clarity and confidence. And remember, we'll be right here when you need us.